Good morning. My name is Kit Letcher. I'm the president of Better Business Bureau serving Central Oklahoma. And we absolutely love Kyle Golding because Kyle worked with us over the last 12 months to work on our mission and our purpose. But what's been really great over the last 12 months working with Kyle is he really helped us kind of get even more narrowly focused so that we could bring more to our businesses and really help you guys grow and develop. And so obviously part of that is having Kyle come in and talk about that, starting businesses, entrepreneurship, things that you should think about as you're getting yourself launched or things that you should think about as you're growing your business. So this is our first in our series of Trust Talks for 2019. We've been doing this for several years and we try to make it a little bit different each year. So we're excited this year to launch with Kyle and let him take it away.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's not very often I get an intro with "we love him." In all fairness, Kit and I have known each other for a very long time, going back to a short period of my life where I worked in nonprofits, which is funny, how your career in the world ebbs and flows. So, good morning, everyone. Like Kit said, my name is Kyle Golding. I'm the CEO and Chief Strategic Idealist for the Golding Group. We're a business development, process, and management company. We work on big picture and day-to-day processes for all types of big and small businesses. And I am a born entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 15 years old. I didn't even know I was starting a business, and I definitely didn't know what being an entrepreneur was or if I was entrepreneurial. But I had an opportunity to do something which would make me a couple of bucks. I did it, was pretty good at it. Made some more money, it turned into another thing, and in the 30 plus years since I started that first business, which of course is now defunct, that's the other thing about being an entrepreneur, things come and things go, is that in the 30 plus years since then, I have owned at least one business of some sort, even at times where I had sort of a regular corporate job and having side businesses, side hustles, and things like that. So I've spent a majority of my life being an entrepreneur, even before I knew what that meant. So I love talking about this subject. I love talking to people about being entrepreneurial, about starting businesses, about managing their business. And so since we have a small group today, what I want to do is I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, kind of figure out who's in the room and what kind of information you guys are all looking for. And I've got a full presentation. I've got a full hour and a half here we can go through. But I want to tailor it to what you guys want to do and talk about specifically, and then I can always jump back into my full presentation. So does that sound like a good idea? First, I'm going to give you guys a couple of definitions, and then from those definitions, we'll kind of figure out who's in the room with us today. So can anyone here tell me the difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur? Because there is a difference.
From my understanding, it's a business owner is basically an employee to their own business or their own field, versus an entrepreneur is somebody that actually works on their business.
That's very good and a good way of looking at it.
Along those lines, I was thinking an entrepreneur might be someone who's not necessarily having a certain skill set to be someone that works at that place, but he's got the brains and the ideas to bring those people together, and he's got the funding also to start different projects.
Yes. So you're both actually very close to being my definition of what an entrepreneur and a business owner is. So entrepreneurs build businesses because they understand big picture and process and taking something from an idea to a functioning entity. They don't necessarily build it so that they can stay with it forever, because what they are excited about is the challenge of doing it. Now, the great thing about running businesses, it's still a challenge on a daily basis. But entrepreneurs most often focus on the challenge of taking something from an idea or nothing and creating a business that can sustain itself and then move forward. It's often why entrepreneurs create business plans that include exits for them, or ways that they leave the business, whether they sell it, or someone buys out their percentage, or they move on to something else. Business owners typically build something that they work in, they're an employee in the business, to create a paycheck or economic value for them or for their family that sustains itself. So a business owner creates something that will be where they work for as long as they wish to work, or when they're ready to retire or do something else, that business can continue working and they can collect residual incomes, or someone from their family could inherit it and not necessarily even work there and still collect income. So it's actually a little bit of a mindset and attitude difference between being an entrepreneur and a business owner. And it's a fine definition between the two. Most people would say if you own a business, you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Then there's a third definition. This one would be a whole lot easier. If you're an employee or someone who works for someone else, you obviously don't own the business or you're not an entrepreneur. Now, how are these three things related, and how can we take a conversation that we're going to have today about entrepreneurialism and thinking like an entrepreneur and put them all together? The key is the core elements of developing, building a good business, managing it and running it to success, and then having personal success in that process can be applied to a business owner, an entrepreneur, or an employee, or someone who works within someone else's business. Because that's how the person who starts in the mailroom becomes the CEO at some point in their career, is they think like a business owner and they have the attitude and aptitudes of an entrepreneur. People who take jobs in our work as employees and limit themselves to the definition of what their jobs are. My job description is this, therefore I'll be good at this, but I don't need to learn anything further or push myself out of those boundaries and comfort zones or do more, thus thinking like an entrepreneur, tend to stay in that position. People who take work in jobs and are employed, who get raises, who get promotions, who go from entry level all the way through the C-suite into leadership of a business, have the attitudes and willingness to learn and develop themselves that entrepreneurs have. So with that in mind, I want to find out who's in the room today. So who in the room would define themselves today, not necessarily where you might be in 2 years or 5 years and 10 years, but today, who is an entrepreneur? All right, we have a couple of purebred entrepreneurs.
Not really.
No? Okay, you're in the ballpark? Okay, so how many people in the room are business owners? Okay, so we have a lot more business owners than entrepreneurs. And who in the room today would define themselves as an employee or someone who works for someone else? Okay, very good. Occasionally, people who have day jobs, right? Regular day jobs, right? They get really freaked out by the idea of talking about entrepreneurialism, like it doesn't apply. It absolutely applies, because the way that the most successful entrepreneurs on the planet that we all know and recognize from their success, the way they went from starting something from an idea to a business entity to successful to mega successful, the attitudes and ideas they put forth is what makes them successful, which means an employee can do the same things, attitudes and idea-wise. Good? Okay. I get asked a lot what advice you would give to your former self, your younger self, your beginning as a professional, so the older me, the 40-something, 50, 40, would tell the teenager or 20-year-old me when it comes to being an entrepreneur. So I'm going to give you a couple of these ideas and see how these strike you. When you start having success, that doesn't mean everything will be that easy. The easiest thing you do in business is open your door on day one, because you have something new and exciting, and you have spent your entire life up to that point preparing yourself for that. The hardest thing to do is day 2 and day 3 and day 4, right? Because our industries change, right? All kinds of things change. Our industries change, the economy changes, technology changes, laws change, the way people spend money. People who started businesses in 2000 are definitely not doing business the same today, because a little thing called the internet that came around in about 1995 really blew up in 2000, but it's a completely different animal in 2019 because of mobile phones and social media, etc. So, early success should be motivating to you and inspiring to you but you have to have the attitude that it will change, it will get harder before it becomes easier, and you can't give up the first time you get pushback in a career or starting a business. And I'm sure you guys have all kind of heard the phrase, right, that there's no such thing as failure, there's learning from things that fail. And that success comes from failure because we learn things from them. And it's only really failure if you quit, right? Get knocked down 5 times, get up 6. The almost opposite is true. What happens easy for you in career or when you begin a business will not always be that easy. And so you need to take the lessons that you learn from that. My second quote here, pay closer attention to the how and why of early success. Don't assume that you will always understand what worked and what didn't. In business, sometimes you understand what works and what doesn't. You have a big promotion or an open house, a lot of people show up, you make a lot of sales. It's very easy to say, that worked. It's the times when things aren't working, it's much harder because you're doing the things that you assume would work and those things have changed. Being adaptable to change is the number one aptitude of an entrepreneur and the number one aptitude of a successful business owner or employee. So everyone in this room needs to be adaptable to change. The best way to be adaptable to change is not simply being open-minded to the fact that things will change in the future or that you'll have to do things differently someday, but in documenting and understanding your process up to that point so that when you need to make the change, it's an informed decision and not simply a reaction to a market or other outside elements that are holding you back. Write this stuff down. Your memory will fail you. Why things worked well in the beginning, why when you started a new job they really loved you, why your new business did well in the first year and not the second year, the factors, the elements that go into it will look a certain way in your head, but may not reflect what actually happened on paper, may not reflect your accounting ledger. We were really great in the second quarter of that first year. Actually it was the third quarter. If it's written down and you have reference material you can go back to, you can put it together better in your head. Your memory will fail you. It's not because you have bad memory, it fails all of us. Building future success, because we said earlier, failure isn't failing if you learn from it and move on and do better. Well, you don't learn from something and do better if you can't recollect exactly what it is you did before that you can do differently the next time. So having it in your head is one thing. Having it on paper and becoming disciplined about documenting your process as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and as an employee is super important. This is something that people don't do very often because they feel like creating too many rules, too much structure, or too many processes to just simply do your job. Or as an employee, if you feel like that's something your boss should be applying to you and you shouldn't have to do for them, excuse me. People feel that that is limiting the idea of creating standing operating procedures and recording your processes. But it's actually freeing to you because it allows you to go back and put together what actually happened. Thus, you can know what changed or didn't work so you can make those adjustments to move forward in the future in a better way. Yes?
In watching markets and looking at what's going on in the industry, whatever industry you're in, I find reporting external factors help because a lot of times you know what's going on inside your business, but you're not necessarily tracking the economy fell here or Devin shut, did these things. So it's real hard to focus in if you don't include the things going on
Absolutely.
Outside as well as inside.
Absolutely, for sure. Back in the day, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, right? If you had a business, your competition was the people who did exactly what you did. If you sold sodas, if you had a hamburger joint, if you were a consultant like I am, they would say, I only need to know about the other 7, 10, or 15 people that do exactly what I do, right? If the hamburger joint near you lowered their prices or added something extra, you had to kind of react, right? 2019 is not that scenario, because 2019, it's all about economic viability. So if you own a restaurant, it's not just that you compete with other restaurants for tonight's dinner money. You compete against the Thunder and against the newest smartphone and newest shoes and anything where people might say, instead of going out this week, we're spending our money on Thunder tickets. And for some people, buying Thunder tickets or an OU football game or a new pair of like really the nicest sneakers out there, that means skipping some nice meals or skipping something else that they normally would spend money on. And so you're right, you have to look at overall economic value in the ecosystem that you sit in. You also have to understand what your direct competitors, the other restaurants, the other soda companies, the other people that do exactly what you do. You have to understand what they're doing, you have to pay attention to it, and then you have to do what you're going to do anyways. You can't let your competition cripple you, but you have to understand how you're competing with them. So it's a very good point. I like that tremendously. There's a lot of good insight to that.
So with what you're talking about, the economic viability, would that be the same thing as opportunity cost as far as on the consumer side?
Yes.
What am I spending my money on versus?
Yes.
Okay.
And that goes back to when you do marketing, right? And hopefully we'll get into marketing later because that's my jam. I love marketing, right? But you don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? You don't put it all in one advertising or marketing vehicle. So you diversify your marketing angles, different ways that you advertise, the different tactics. The things that work best, you do more of. The things that work least, you do less of. That will change. When I said earlier about everything changes, that will eventually change too. And if you say, we've figured out Facebook ads work, you put all your money there, you let it ride, and you don't continually track it and look for new opportunities to do new things and try and A/B testing and things like that, then you'll end up where they don't work as much anymore because Facebook changed the algorithm, because Google added something new, because Instagram is now doing something else, and you're missing opportunities. So always adjusting and tracking and understanding that it works awesome today, and that's great. Let's take that success, but don't get hung up on that success because it will change.
So I have a question. I understand what you're saying about okay, if I have this business and now they have the same one and I need to kind of stay ahead of the ball game with them. So in my case, I have a business that I have a lot of competitors, but my competitors are giants that have been around for years and years. And I'm like this little tiny guy out here.
Okay.
So there's no way that I can really compete with what they're doing because it's just me with my business. And it would be astronomical to compete with what they're doing. So I try to stand apart from them with just who I am, with offering service. But can you speak to how a person can really stand out
Yes.
in the business without? Because I know I can't afford to do all the bells and whistles that they're.
I did a lot of consulting with independently owned liquor stores when the laws changed to allow Walmart to sell liquor. So here's what I told them, and there will be two parts. I'm going to tell you that. I'm also going to tell you too about staying true to who you are and being authentic. So 2 answers here. The 2 ways to be successful in business, right, as a business entity. Number 1 is capitalizing on your strengths. So every business, like every human being on the planet, has strengths and weaknesses. There are things we are good at and things we're not good at, and it's no knock on any one. But you have to recognize the things that you do well and the things you don't do well. Your competitors also have strengths and weaknesses. Your competitors do certain things really well, which means they also do other things not as well. So we're competing, a great example, competing as an independent liquor store against Walmart. Walmart has strengths of buying power, volume, shoppers are already in their location, their price per cost is lower because they've already paid the rent, utilities with the other groceries, etc., right? And they recognize brand, all of the strengths they have. What's the weakness of Walmart when you think about buying beer or wine or spirits?
Quality?
Quality,
I would think of quality more if I went to a smaller place.
knowledge, and customer service, right? Walmart cannot possibly, because of the way they're built and structured, even if a local manager wanted to, offer the customer service and inventory knowledge and depth of customer service that you can get when you walk into a locally owned liquor store with 2 to 5 employees who are fully invested in selling beer, wine, and spirits. It just doesn't happen. Number 2, Walmart is going to sell the top selling brands. They're not selling niche brands. They're not selling limited supplies. They're not doing special promotions because Walmart's business is based on predictability. So local liquor stores, small independent liquor stores, their strengths are knowledge, customer service, adaptability, speed. That's how they compete with Walmart because they're a big behemoth. They have buying power, but they can't adjust fast and they can't do things of that nature. So 2 things here. And also too, if you're social media folks, please have at live tweet, throw some quotes out there, throw some hashtags. I'm all about it. When I get done here, I'll retweet you, I promise. Don't be better, be different.
Steve Jobs said that.
that number
Think
2?
differently, yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of subset to number 1 there.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite things I say on a regular basis. Don't be better, be different. Everyone starts out when they start a business, whether a business owner or as an entrepreneur, and every person goes to their job every day thinking, I'll be better. Well, what is better? Better is subjective. Every single person in here would have a different vision of what a better buying experience for beer and wine is. So if you can't define what better is, it's different to every person, and everyone is trying to be better as an employee or a business. Why would you go down that path? But being different allows you to capitalize on your strengths, do what you do best, like small liquor stores versus Walmart, and then the audience who wants that offering, I want to go and talk to a person and ask them about what I'm buying and get stuff that I can't get at Walmart. If that's what I'm looking for in a liquor store, I'm going to a liquor store and not Walmart, which is the advantage they have over Walmart. They're different, not better.
So one thing, I've been doing a lot of study on business here lately with everything that's going on with mine. So what's the difference between, I hear this a lot, being a master of your field. What's the difference between being a master of your field versus being better?
Being a master of your field is more about your attitude and dedication to what you do. Being different, so it goes back to the liquor store example. Being different means a small liquor store is, they say, the 5 people that work there say, we've got to do customer service if we're going to compete with Walmart. They also say, we have to understand the product super well, not just where's the red wine, but what red wine pairs with what? What's a good bottle of liquor to give as a gift? I have $50 to spend on my boss. What will impress him? Answering those questions, it's that dedication to understanding that, researching, making it part of their business profile and employee profile is what you're talking about dedication to what you do. Because again, better is subjective. And so being dedicated to what you do, maybe other people won't recognize that as being better. But knowing if I want to buy a good amount of beer, cheap, and a name brand, Budweiser, and I'm buying a whole bunch, so I want to save a couple of bucks, I could go to Walmart and I could do that. And I could walk straight in, I could grab it, and also grab chips and bread and all kinds of other things and walk out. I know that happens, and in case I want to do that, I go there. When I want something different, if I want to go in and talk to someone or a different selection or to find something I can't find at Walmart, when I do something different, I go to a locally owned liquor store. That's the difference. There's no such thing as better. It's better for everyone. Like I like the liquor store experience. To me, that's better. Other people like price and volume, and so they go to Walmart. For them, it's better. We're both right. You can't cover both as a business, so select which one you do based on your strengths and your competitors' weaknesses, and go for it.
So thank you, because you just gave me like an aha moment. Because like, if you go to the liquor store, you have a feeling, you have an experience. You you sort of feel what it's gonna feel like to deliver that
Right.
gift or have your friends over. But if you just are getting it at Walmart, it's just grabbing it off the shelf, throw it in your basket.
Right.
And so you've helped me figure out how I'm different because, thanks.
Often people think when they're the smallest competitor in the market that they're at the severest disadvantage.
Right.
So you have to take your weaknesses and make them strengths. Your weakness being you're the smallest competitor. You have to spin that around, and there's a strength in that, whether it's customer service, the speed of adaptability, maybe you're willing to work nights and weekends. Whatever it is that you can do that your large competitors simply can't do by their structure or they just refuse to do because it doesn't make them the right amount of money, take your strength, your weakness, and make it your strength.
I think just go to that, to what she said in reference to the liquor store. I'm not a drinker, but my husband is. So when he goes in, they actually know him by name.
Right.
And they know what he's gonna come in for.
Mhm.
And he might even tell him, you know what, this company they're coming out with a different brand that's similar to that and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's just that personal.
Or if they're out of something, right? Like, well, we're
Right.
out of this, but this is very similar. If you like it, you would enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Right. It's the same thing. Buying a suit from a tailor is a completely different experience than buying a suit off the rack at any department store, right? It's easy. Walk in, pick your size, pick your color, off the rack, pay for it, go. Fast, done. But it's not the customer service experience. It's not the detailing. It's not the fit to you that it is from getting one from a tailor. Tailor's more expensive. To go get a suit tailored is at least an hour or two. Like, it's a whole different experience. And so the tailor understands it's not easy and they're not cheaper. The worst thing a tailor should ever do, or the independent liquor store, is advertise as easy and cheaper, because that's not them. And the same thing with the department store. The department store shouldn't say the tailored experience, because it's not. Stick with their strengths, which is convenience, cost, etc. Which takes me back to the second part, which is what you originally kind of touched on to begin with the first question, is the most important thing any business can do as a business owner or an entrepreneur, and for you personally as an employee, is be authentic. Be yourself. No more fake it till you make it. It's a disaster. In fact, I can tell you the last client that my company took on from out of state, now one of our biggest clients, in the final meeting with them, they finally said to us, "We choose you because you're the only agency who spoke about authenticity." Everyone else was trying to sell them this package of advertising, blah, blah, blah. We came in and asked them questions and tried to find out who authentically they were and who they were trying to connect with in their audience. That's how business gets done in 2019 in a good, proper, solid way. And when we get into the nuts and bolts, I'll explain how not selling, but developing community around your business makes for profitability. Too many people go straight to the economics of things, and no one in this room likes to be sold anything, even when you need to buy it, right? Sorry, I didn't ask this. I could ask because I make jokes sometimes about used car salesmen. We have anyone here that sells automobiles? Do you used to? So I have a good friend of mine who used to sell cars, and he got so mad at me because my examples of what not to do is used car salesman. And I mean in the, the 1970s movies type of stereotype of used car sales, right? Like, hey, what's it gonna take to get you in this little thing today? And they're just trying to sell you that car that they want to sell, that makes them money. They don't care what you need. They don't care if you need more room for the kids. They don't care if you're looking for a sports car. They got to sell this car today to make their boss happy. Don't run your business like that, and don't be that employee, because none of us like to be sold anything, which is just having something shoved down our throat. We don't like it. Because of the power of the internet and because we have so much information at our fingertips these days, we know what we want to buy before we go buy it. Especially a large purchase. If you're going to buy an automobile, a piece of furniture, back to those $300 sneakers, right? If you're going to make a purchase like that, do you just do it randomly? No. Get on the Google machine, try to figure out the best place, the best price, the best quality, what'll last the longest, what'll give you the best resale value. You do all that research. So when you walk on a car lot, do you need the car guy or girl that works there to sell you a car? No. You know what you're there for. You're really trying to find the right color and make sure the deal that they promised online is actually there, right? Then it gets into financing and all that yuck. But if you come in asking for a white Chevy pickup with the V8, and they try to push you into a red subcompact, it's completely different. And the guy won't stop talking about it. Is that going to work out well for him? No, right? So consumers don't like to be sold. They like to have a organic relationship with the person that they need to buy something from. That only happens if we as business owners and as the employees, as our extension, are authentic in our sales process of actually trying to solve the problem for the person who wants to do business with us. That's the key to business, is solving the problem of the person who wants to do business with you. I need to buy a car, I gotta go to someone who will sell me the right car for me. If I want to buy a special bottle of wine for a gift for someone that I need to impress, but I don't want to look like I'm the richest guy in the world, and I don't want to look like maybe it's romantic or something like that, then I gotta go to the liquor store and ask these people, like, what can I do that, you know, or if I want to accomplish something, go get a suit that looks professional, as opposed to get a suit that maybe is a little bit more trendy or it's very slimming or some other kind of thing like that. I go to my tailor and I tell him this, and they tell you the options back. Not because they need to sell a certain thing, but because they're answering your questions, solving your problem. That's what good business transactions look like. So that was a whole lot of unpacking for one question. Thank you very much for that. Like I said, I get on rolls like this where I get all excited about stuff and I get going. Good. Plus, I got to get a couple of those good quotes in there. I'm telling you, don't be better, be different is one of my favorite things to say. Okay, so point number 3 of my advice I would give my younger self, and boy, did I need it when I was a teenager. Don't get a big head, but do keep your confidence. That works for anyone in any situation. When you start having early success, it's easy to think everything's easy because you're so damn smart. And maybe you are. But early success is the easiest success. The first 10% of sales is the easiest. The last 10% of sales is the absolute hardest. Maintaining in between is harder than getting. So don't let early success lead to overconfidence. This also touches back to being authentic. If you're a fake it till you make it kind of person, you might walk around with, last month I did X in sales, that makes me a big old badass, and I'm the best in the world, and I'm best in anything, and then you start, right? Now, is anyone gonna go, well, that's the kind of guy I want to do business with? No, right? If you're inauthentic, fake it till you make it, or big-headed or have attitudes simply because you've been successful, that success will go away. Doesn't matter how smart you are, how good at what you do, the mastery of your craft, etc. At some point, attitude can kill everything. So keep a positive attitude. And the flip side, you have to stay positive and forward-looking if you're going to succeed in everything, because like we said a few times before, right? You're going to have failures. Even when the success is on the hockey stick on the ledger of going straight up, it's not really straight up. There's still ebbs and flows. There's still little dips. There's things that you expected to happen that do not happen or don't happen the way you expected them to. You can't let any one of those setbacks send you running away to never do it again. The same way you can't let any single great victory, getting a good client, having a banner month in sales, having a competitor go out of business because you are doing better than any of those singular things, doesn't make you the best ever. And even if it did, because someone out in the world is the best at everything, right? You can't go around telling people that because no one wants to hear it. and it's typically inauthentic. So see how these things all kind of circle back to each other.
I teach at UCO, and what I see is when I see early success, momentum changes.
Yes.
And students sit back, and so they don't maintain, and that's where the
Yep.
lows in the middle, and then they're chasing that at the end. So that middle part is the hardest for them to focus and maintain, and that's kind of where we are.
Well-fed entrepreneurs are not hungry. If you're not hungry, are you really hustling and grinding? Right? You have to have motivation. Early motivation is you're hungry. You need to build it, you need to have it. Late motivation is in
Is
maintaining and keeping it because there are so many factors trying to take it away from you. But none of that is still because I'm the best, smartest ever. Because it's not how the world works, right? This is what was completely out of my notes, but I've said this a few times to a couple people now. I feel like I'm going to incorporate this more into my talks like this. The most dangerous person on the planet, especially in Oklahoma City, I don't want to say the planet, let's say Oklahoma City, is the guy or girl who makes their first $100,000. It's enough success for you to feel like you're the richest guy or girl on your block. You're a big roller. You're ready for that car, for the watches, right? You can afford whatever you want, really, but you can't afford what you want forever on $100,000. There's no guarantee next year you'll make $100,000. There's no guarantee next week you'll still have whatever it is they got you there. So getting to, well, their success, let me go blow my money or forget what got me there or get out of my work ethic or whatever it is you do that you change when you have success, that change takes away your success. In fact, when you have early success, you've got to double down on what you've been doing that got you there. Why originally I said it was so important to write down and document what got you there. When things go well, you do more of that. When things do poorly, you do less of it and you find things that work better. That's the dynamic. So be positive in finding personal successes and things that you can build on, that you can move forward with, that lets you know that you're on the right path. But don't let it take you down the path of arrogance or being off-putting to other people. One of my favorite memes in the world is pictures of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, when the pictures of the two of them standing next to each other. Now, usually Buffett's in a suit. He's a more old school kind of guy. And Gates is really into like khakis and sweaters, right? But the two of them standing together, and my favorite meme is not a single Rolex, no Gucci belts, no bling, nothing on the two richest men in the world, right? Remember what your motivation is, put your money in smart places, and do things that build success, not things that bring you short, temporary feelings of success. And let me tell you, when I was young, and I had early success, and I had success as a teenager, and I had my first six-figure year in my early 20s, at that time, and boy, if I could go back and even my friends from when we were young children would say like, dude, you're a pain in the ass to listen to. You really find yourself to be a lot. Now, obviously, I'm not that guy anymore. Obviously, though, I still have a ton of self-confidence. And I feel secure up here having those conversations with you because I've been practicing my craft and paying attention, etc. But I also know I'm learning in this process at the same time. So these attitudes about not getting too high on yourself, but not getting too low, but always learning, always developing, learning from other people, and always moving yourself forward in a career path, again, can apply to entrepreneurs, business owners, and employees looking for success. It's all about your attitude. It's okay to ignore anyone telling you that you can't do something, but you can't ignore reality. You need both. So when someone says, don't start that business, it'll fail, what do they know? You shouldn't let one or two people or someone you don't know or even someone in your family who's not an expert say, don't start that business. Don't be an entrepreneur. Don't take that job because it's not going to work out for you. And typically, it's kind of a hater thing, right? Like they don't want to see you succeed. So they tell you no. If you have it in your mind that you can do it, that you can be successful, that you can put some information around how you can be successful, you should do that. Don't let people talk you out of dreams or visions or ideas you have, simply because it wouldn't work for them or they don't think you can do it. Now the flip side, this is just like before, you can't get too low on yourself and you can't get too high on yourself. You can't, though, be so unrealistic about what you could accomplish in life, right? I love basketball. I love watching Oklahoma City Thunder. I could practice till now, until I'm 80 years old. Even when I was a young man, I could practice, right? I'm not making the squad. I'm not telling my friends and family I'm giving up my business to try out for the Thunder, right? I joke a lot. Big OU football fan, we got season tickets, we go to the games. I joke with people all the time because I didn't play football in college. I went to college and didn't have a football team. So I joke that I have eligibility. I got 4 years of eligibility. I could go walk on this team. In a strictly kind of like academically accounting sense, yes. The NCAA would say I'm eligible. The University of Oklahoma does not want me on their football field or anywhere near their facilities, right? And I love the game, but the point being, if I was going to quit everything to go join a basketball team, a football team, to probably become an astronaut at my age is probably a little bit unrealistic. That is unrealistic. You have to pay attention to reality. But I have a friend of mine who's actually well-known, world-famous architect. For the last 10 years, I've been telling original conversation about if I hadn't gone the career path I'd gone on, architecture was one of the things in the back of my head I might have gone to school for. And for now, actually almost 15 years now, every time I see him, he says, you should go back to school for architecture. Like, wow, I got 7 years of school and then 5 years of residency, and I'll be, 60, 70 something before I get to actually build a building? And he looks me dead in the eye and says, the best architects do their best work in the 70s and the 80s. Okay, it sounds a little crazy. But there is some reality. What he's telling me is some reality to, if I decided to make that career change today, because it's something I love and actually have an aptitude for, because I have a design background and some other things, it's not crazy to say, I'm going to go back to school and become an architect. It is crazy to say, I'm going to go try out for the Thunder and make the team, right? So don't let other people tell you that your ideas are bad and that you shouldn't do something simply because they don't know anything and they're trying to squash your dreams. But be realistic, okay? Too many people give up on things too quick, and too many people stick with things that have no basis in reality. And don't be either one of those people. Be somewhere in the middle. Find ways to move forward, but with logic and experience, because talent only gets you so far. This goes back to the young me. There's a lot of things that success I had as a very young person because I was sort of the first person in my family to do it. I was doing it at an early age. That's really impressive for someone that's 20, but it wasn't that impressive for someone that was 25 or 30. And now when you're over 40, someone will go, okay. So you have to move forward with logic and with experience, because talent is, again, a subjective idea. Being talented is something, again, let's go back to the Thunder. Russell Westbrook is my favorite player. There are people in the world who think he is not good. Russell Westbrook ain't no good. What? He's amazing. He's been MVP. He's the top 10. He's the all-star 10 times in a row. Someone out there doesn't like the way he plays ball. So whatever talent you have, there'll be people out there that are like, that's not impressive. Now, it's more on them than you, but talent will only take you so far. But experience and logic, being able to point to things you've built, to success you have, to examples of things that you took from an idea to fruition to working, those things, your experience, you can show to anyone in business, and they would have a hard time denying you that that's success. So Utilize your talent, harness it, and take those good attitudes we discussed earlier, but work towards tangible things that can prove you do what you say you can do. And this goes back to, when you talk about things you've accomplished, it's not fake it till you make it, it's not bragging if you can back it up. And there's so much fake it till you make it out in the world these days that the easiest way to push back on that is, well, here's my resume. So when you're young and you're early and you were developing something, talent and drive and ambition moves you forward, but when you get into the process of it and sustaining it and making it a part of your career, results are what matter. Again, advice for the young me. Drop the idea of this is how your life will be forever. Everything will change. There's a statistic out there that says most people change their careers 3 to 5 times. Not jobs, careers. I've had 3 major changes in my career path over my 30-something years of being a professional. And those are major changes. There were small changes along the way. Your early success will lead to other things. There'll be different things. Hopefully there'll be successful things, but they will change. It goes back to the idea of being adaptable and looking forward at all times. Just because you're successful today and what's working today and what it means to you personally will change as you develop in your career and as you develop in life. If you're open and adaptable to that change, you'll make it work for you. If you want it to be 1995 forever, you're out of luck. 1996 was my best year in my first career in the music industry. Killed it. It's not 96 anymore. All right? I can't go back. Not even in a retro kind of way. You can go back to 1996 and try to recapture the magic of 96. It doesn't happen anymore. And it's not as impressive to have that kind of success when you're 48 as when you're 26. So be open to that idea. Along that same line, success comes from change, but be ready to change with the times to keep being successful. Must be adaptable and open to change in order to be successful. That applies whether you own the business, whether you're an entrepreneur starting and managing and being a part of things, or as an employee. It's one thing to build up every skill set that your boss wants, have all the right attitudes, be the person they depend on all day, every day, my number one employee. Eventually, their business will change because everything changes, and as that number one employee or wanting to be the number one employee, you have to be adaptable to it. You can't be like, damn, I was the best at answering the phones, and now we don't do that anymore because we have a system. And you can't feel like that took away from my job. That's unfair that was taken from me in my job. You have to say, I have to develop a new skill set. I have to do something different because that's how business works today. And if I'm going to be the best at my job, if I'm going to be the most valuable employee, if I'm going to be employee of the month every month, I can't be upset or hung up on what I used to do that I got accolades for. I have to be adapting and moving to what the company's going to be doing in the future.
So what are your thoughts about where we're going with machine learning?
So I think it's super early. I think most people talking about machine learning don't understand where it's going and what it will apply to. I think there are a couple of industries that really need disrupted. Higher education is one of them, and I think machine learning is going to be one aspect of that. AI and some other things are going to be distance learning, et cetera. So those industries are going to have to adapt. Things that have sort of used to be done kind of on a lower scale before will be taken over by machines. We're seeing bots already doing a lot of that. Early adapters are trying to push the boundaries, but they're going back to how we've always done it and just try to take tasks off people's plates because it means less economic cost to them. I think it'll take an iteration of 2 of machine learning, much like AI, before people understand how to really effectively use it in business. And to be honest with you, I think that's 10 to 15 years down the road.
We're saying about 2025. So as I've been getting into this, of course, when I talk about people look at me like I have 2 heads. But like one of the things I had mentioned, my brother's that's a CPA. I was like, I could actually program a machine to do a lot of what you do, and he's like, nah. And all of a sudden he starts seeing articles about it saying how you're not going to be relevant,
Right.
and so he started going back to school for programming.
Right. There was a time in the world where TurboTax didn't exist. And there was a time where TurboTax was in a box and you had to buy a CD and go and take it home and put it in your machine, right? And of course now it's online, and now the EZ form is free because all that process is worked out. And of course they're getting your information, selling it for marketing. It's a whole different racket. But it went from it didn't exist to a clunky version to, and it replaced not full level CPAs, but it replaced sort of the H&R Block type walk-in CPAs of the world. Not that they don't exist anymore, but they had to change their game, right? And they advertise their services differently. And again, they go to their strength was talk to a human, where TurboTax is free and it's simple and it's quick and online. You don't even have to talk to a human because there are plenty of people who do not want to talk to humans in life, right? So the pro and cons, right? So your CPA brother has to focus on his strengths, which is he's a human, he can answer questions, he can interact. If something goes wrong, the whole reason for every business owner and every entrepreneur, trust me on this, have a CPA, have a lawyer, and you need some other third-party consultants for marketing and other things, but don't ever own a business or try to start a business without a CPA and a lawyer. Just absolutely, without a doubt. CPA's got to focus on what they bring to the table as value as interactions. Understand some of their business will go away to machine learning that will take some of those processes and go away, very TurboTax-like. But then also there's a third opportunity, which is for him to take and utilize machine learning to make his processes faster and simpler so that he can lower his cost and he can spend more time speaking to people, speaking on the phone, answering questions. Where business people fail is they get new technology that makes their business easier to run. It makes it innovative, which means it's higher profitability. And instead of doing what they do and attracting more business and being more profitable, they actually raise their rates, which is the exact opposite. It goes back to putting your business entity in front of who your consumer is and who your customer is that you're trying to solve the problems for. Thank you, sir. So it's a mix. It's a little bit of everything. Machine learning is going to kill any industries anytime soon, but the best case scenario for you is that CPAs and attorneys and other people, even doctors at some point, will understand the value of hiring a firm that does machine learning to do specific things that just sort of supplement and make more effective and efficient what they already do. And that's just the adaptability of what the future looks like. We didn't have the internet at some point in the world, so we didn't need to hire web developers. Well, as soon as the internet became important, we hired web developers and we hired people to design websites. Now we don't hire people to design websites because it all comes kind of push button, right? Everyone had to adapt and change. So you'll have to adapt and change to make it viable for you. Your brother, the CPA, will have to adapt and change to make it viable for him. If neither one of you changes, the whole thing will sweep you under.
You'll turn into Blockbuster.
Yes. And which is funny because Blockbuster had a chance to be Netflix. They were offered the idea. And they were like, why the hell would we do that? Because they stayed focused on their assets that made them money, which is the physical items, and not adapting to move forward to where the consumer would want it in the future. They would rather force their tapes on consumers than change their business model and basically admit that their business model at some point would become outdated. But it did become outdated. We all know it now, and now they're all gone. There's one left in the world now, I think. There was two and one closed.
Well, that one closed, I think, last week.
Okay, I heard something in the news recently about what's the last
There's
one.
one Marvel movie.
Right. They are. Yes, Captain Marvel lands on a Blockbuster. Which is actually ironic because that is how you know that movie is not modern. Like, oh, she's at a Blockbuster? Well, that's not today. Like we don't have Blockbusters. We don't have those. Remember the photo booths you drove up and handed your photo, like, to develop your pictures? We don't need that now, right?
Just have Kodak standing stations.
Yeah, right?
On your film. Yeah,
Right.
no, yeah, no.
So all these things, knowing what you know now, harness your skills and aptitude of what you want to do, but looking forward, and then putting your consumer first, putting the person that's going to buy your product or service, put them first and sell it to them or do business with them the way they want to do, going back to the Walmart versus liquor store. If they want Walmart and you're a liquor store, let them have it. Focus on the audience that is interested and has the value in what you do. So when it comes to you developing machine learning, you have to find professionals or organizations that want to add that to what they already do, and because they understand the value of it. Regular person off the street will never have, I just work at the local gas station, right? They're not going to have any care for machine learning ever. And so convincing them machine learning has value, it doesn't have any value to you. My last piece of advice from my past meetings, so we ended up spending the whole time on this, but I think it worked out really well. Don't be afraid of others having success around you. Their wins don't take away from yours. Their success does not steal from your success. Jealousy is a waste of time and effort. Let them hate on you, but don't return it. Keep focused on your goals. And I'll tell you this, when I was a young man, I did not follow that advice. When other people in my industry got the good gigs, got the publicity, I was jealous. I was so mad. Man, I wanted that gig. These days, it's all right. Plenty of other fish in the sea, if you will. You can't get hung up on other people having success, even if they do exactly what you do, because success.
Okay.
These are two different items. Success, it's my throat. Let me get it.
Take a drink, yeah.
Get real clear on that.
All right, edit video, here we go. Success is not finite. It's not an end-sum game. We're out of success today. No one else can be successful. You don't run out. So even if there's someone who does exactly what you do, they compete for the same customers, you're in the same ecosphere, they're not taking success from you. Walmart isn't taking success from the small liquor stores. They're bringing in people who want to buy a bunch of beer at a different price that wouldn't go to the liquor store because they considered it a pain in the ass or too expensive. All the liquor stores I talk to, oh my gosh, we're freaking out Walmart's going to get all this access because of the laws. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't defeat success. It actually broadened the market. So other people being successful doesn't steal your success unless they're literally out there telling people they're you and that all the great things you read online about that guy, it's me, come pay me. Yeah, which is obviously very unethical and probably illegal, and things that the BBB would help you with. That's right.
Yeah.
Report them to the BBB if they do that. But simply because people choose someone over you or your business, hire someone for a job, this has happened to me in the past too. So I've alternated my life between owning my own business and working for other people, and because of different factors in the world and in my life in those scenarios. And there are plenty of times where I decided I was going to work for someone else, or I applied for jobs, or there were opportunities I went after that I just didn't get. And you know what happens, right? When you apply for a job and someone else gets it? Oh man, that guy no good. That's not gonna work out. They're not as good as me. It's not about being better, it's about being different. They chose someone who was just different than you, whether it was because of skill set, because of attitude, because they liked their hair, they didn't like your hair, whatever it was, because you showed up late for the interview, because their cousin already works there, because their daddy owns the company. None of that makes you a different person than the day before you found out that someone else got that job. Nothing about when you're competing businesses, having customers and having success changes the business you've built. Nothing in your system is different because someone else's system attracts attention and gains them success. You can't get hung up on other people having success, and it's typically in your sphere, right? You don't go, man, Devin's making a lot of money and that's really killing my liquor store. Right? You don't think of that. But you do say, I have liquor store A and liquor store B is a mile away, and there's a lot more cars in their parking lot than mine. You get focused on, I think they're making more money than me. You're not accomplishing anything. You're sending yourself back. said earlier about having confidence without being overconfident. You have to always be paying attention to your business. And so if they're having success and you're not having the success you wish, you have to figure out what you could do different or better to move you in the right direction, drawing the right people to your business. Because at some point there are always people who always go in a certain direction for a business and people who always go in your direction. Well, it's like Walmart and our small liquor stores.
That competition makes you better.
Absolutely.
That's why Walgreens and CVS will be directly across the street.
They will, won't they? And for a while, Sonic was intentionally building right across the street from McDonald's. They went after them for about 10 years. Anytime they could buy anything across McDonald's, they went right there and said, let's compete. Anyone ever been to like a beer festival where every beer manufacturer's in the room?
Sounds amazing.
Right? Right? Brewfest.
Yeah.
None of,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
They're all in the same room with people who like beer. You know why? They get a chance to talk to people who like beer. Yes, their competitors are there. Yes, there are people who make similar things to them. There are things in that room that someone you're talking to and sampling your beer, at the end of the night is going to go, that was nice, this one's better, I like this one better, and I'm going to end up buying it. But if you don't go to the beer festival, you'll never, I like how all of this is alcohol.
Right.
Apparently,
Sounds a lush, man.
I haven't had a drink in a week because I've been sick, so it's not that. Because I'm sick, right? If you can't get in a room with your competition and authentically compete because you are focused on your strengths and positioning yourself positively in your industry with what you really do, not faking it till you make it, if all of that means you can't get in a room with your competitors, you're going to fail anyways. Pack up and go home. You can't be afraid of competition. Competition brings more people to the market. They don't steal your element of the market. Again, unless they're knocking you off. But I got to tell you, I've had plenty of people knock off the things that we do. You know what I say? It's a serious form of flattery right there. If you're imitating what we're doing, we're ahead of you. Because we are adapting and changing on a regular basis. We're looking forward. We're already looking at machine learning and AI and all the things that are going to come in the future. And so if you're using language that we used when we launched our company in 2011, if you're using it today, good luck, right? I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forward. And so people stealing your ideas or trying to look and act like you in your business, or even when you're an employee and someone's like, oh, well, that person was successful because they did this and they worked weekends and they kind of kissed up to this person and they start doing the same thing, kind of getting in on you, right? You're ahead of them. Just keep competing. Just keep working and hustling in an authentic way focused on your strengths and weaknesses. This applies for employees, business owners, and entrepreneurs. It's the basis of how things work. Thank you, Sean. We have what we call a hustle culture right now, right? Hustle and grind. Now, I'm guilty of it. I got the hashtags, right? Hustle and grind, even on the weekend. My blog is called The Saturday Morning Hustle because I work every Saturday, and I'm proud of it. The way to hustle and grind as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as an employee that's the next big thing, it's not just the hours you put in, it's the quality of hours you put in. The way to avoid burnout or feeling like you're just putting effort out without actually accomplishing anything is paying attention to how you can work smart before you work hard. Effort doesn't actually equal success. Focused, smart, strategic effort equals success. Unfocused effort is just work. It's just pushing that rock up the hill every day to roll it back down. Strategic efforts move you in a direction where success can be. The flip side, the best ideas, the smartest minds, the most talent won't get you anywhere if you're not willing to put the effort in. And you definitely won't stand out as a business or as an entrepreneur, and for sure as an employee, if you're unwilling to put effort into it. Walk the walk before you talk the talk. It's how you come off authentic and not a fake it till you make it braggart.
So I think a lot of times we get stuck in the work because it seems like we have to do all the things that come at us, and we're not thinking strategically about it because we're not looking at, if I work on like this business plan, or if I work on these top 5 things on my to-do list, that's going to take me all day, but I can get these other 20 done, and that's all just ancillary. It's just the work. It's just the extra that you don't really need to focus on. How do you, as a business owner, figure out what are your top 5 and what is the extras? Because it all feels like work, because you're the person responsible for all of it, right?
Right.
You got to get it all done at some point, but the other can continue to wait. How do you figure out what differentiates your money-making effort versus your, like it just kind of keeps everything moving?
Working on your business as opposed to working in your business is the basic idea. But essentially what it comes down to, and this again will apply to business owners, entrepreneurs, employees, is you have to balance being strategic and being tactical. And everyone wants to go straight to tactics, and that's effort without focus or strategy. So tactics are the day-to-day execution, right? Twitter is a tactic, it's not a strategy. Social media is a tactic, not a strategy. Newspaper ads are tactic. And so people will say, I'm gonna start a business, and it's gonna be great because I'm awesome on Instagram. That's not a strategy, that's a tactic, right? So understanding strategy first, and this is good because this parlays right into business structure. So here's how every business is built and how it should be marketed. Strategy first, you have to understand who you are, what you do, who your audience is, and how you're different. Being different, when you understand your competition, is differentiation. Differentiation creates your position. Position allows you to set goals, objectives, tactics. That's a whole lot real fast, I know. I'll explain it all. But do you understand how much work goes into before we get into tactics? Too many people will go in right to the work. Go out there and start chopping a tree down. Well, what are we trying to accomplish? Right? Like Abraham Lincoln saying, right? If I have 5 hours to cut down a tree, I spend 3 hours sharpening my axe. If you are only doing a to-do list, if you're only focused on tactics and small-term measurements, then you're not reaching objectives and you're not reaching goals and you're not moving in a strategic way. You have to balance between strategy and tactics. It's easy to do tactics because it's something you can check off a list. I accomplished this today, I accomplished this, I accomplished this. You have to be able to pull yourself above that and look at what are we accomplishing, what direction are we moving, what's the future, right? We're always moving towards the future, we're always changing things. Because if you understand things change, if you understand your competitors are gonna do what they do and you're gonna do what you do, you have to stay focused on your strengths. You have to mitigate your weaknesses. You have to take your weaknesses and make them strengths. If you're always keeping that in your head, a big picture attitude about building a business, as an entrepreneur, a series of businesses, or building a career, then you can take the time to step back and focus on strategy, make sure the strategy is right, and then everything cascades down from the strategy. The best time to make those adjustments, to stop doing the tactical work and make those adjustments, there's 2 times. One, when you're failing. It's really obvious, right? Well, this isn't working. No one's showing up, no one's buying, no more followers, right? It's not working. Don't go do more, right? Stop and examine why it's not working. Now, I started off, the first point of the conversation was write down what works and what doesn't work. If you're recording these things and you can go, well, 6 months ago, here was what was working and not working. Today, here's what's working and not working. What's different and what changed? That conversation in and of yourself is focused on strategy. So if you understand when things don't work as well or stop working or are failing, that you must stop and go back to the strategy, you'll make that commitment. If you're only focused on effort, I'll out-hustle everyone, then you're going to keep being tactical and keep doing the same thing that's not working and drive yourself into the ground, and you either burn out and quit or your business fails. So having that big picture attitude, I like to tell my clients I consult with that you want to find employees that think like an owner. When you think like an owner, right, for the owners in the room, right, you can't be just focused on getting your to-do list done for the day because you got to think about paying the bills. You got to think about the monthly receipts, and you got to think about quarterlies. You got to think about hiring the next person and firing the next person. And at the end of the year, the lease is up, and you got to negotiate. Like all that big picture stuff that when you own a business, when you have employees that just come in, check off their box, and do the job that they're told, and then they go home. And we need those in our businesses. But those aren't the people that become managers, that become directors, that become vice presidents, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The employees who want to do that, but then look at the big picture with you as the boss, as the owner. Understand it. Think strategically. Work smart before they work hard, but absolutely work hard. As owners and entrepreneurs, those are the employees that we lift up and we put on our team and we bring us up. And we surround ourselves with people who think tactically and strategically. It has to be both. But the second best time to go back to strategy versus tactical is the easy time, New Year's Eve. What do we all do, right? We all self-examine on New Year's Eve as individuals. Hey, 2019, I'm gonna lose a little weight, I'm gonna drink less beer, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna write, whatever it is we're gonna do, we're gonna go back to school. Whatever it is, there's that great artificial time of the year that we put on ourselves that in New Year's we should be examining ourselves. Well, New Year's is the perfect time for a business owner or an entrepreneur to look at their business. It's in the fourth quarter. Typically, I find a lot of people when they get the holidays, they get time off, they get to slow down a little bit, they get less tactical once they get more into strategy. As long as you're keeping that in mind and you're trying to find a balance, it should work itself out. If you're so busy in your day-to-day, literally everyone in this building is working 14 hours just to get the product out the door. You don't have enough people or you're using them wrong. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Your structure's wrong, and you really do need to stop. And that's where I said earlier, make sure you have a CPA, make sure you have a lawyer. That is when you bring in someone like me, someone third party, but someone who's fresh, outside, not held to any of those pressures, who could say, why are you doing these things this way? Prioritize over here, and put you back on strategy. So sometimes you can't do it from inside. And when that happens, it's because you have put yourself in such a hole, you don't have the ladder to climb out. Sometimes you have to ask for a ladder. Best case scenario for you is to have these attitudes and ideas, be writing stuff down and journaling and recording along the way, and always be putting strategy into the back of all your day-to-day tasks. If you're doing it on a regular basis and you're thinking about your career or building your business in that way, you should never get so far in a hole you don't remember where you started. If you do, you gotta go outside, call someone at the BBB, call someone with us, someone who can dig you out of that hole, because that's what they do for a living. It costs you money, but it's better in the long run. So we're straight up 1 o'clock. Look, I did that. I don't want to leave though, and if there's anyone who has any questions or anything that you want me to address before we wrap up today. If you have something you don't really feel like asking in front of someone, I'll hang out here and talk to you. We'll turn the cameras off. Otherwise, I absolutely appreciate everyone coming, having great interaction. You guys all asked good questions. I think everyone kind of commented. Maybe one or two people did. So I saw some good heads bobbing and up and down. Okay, so that was all good. I appreciate you guys' time and effort and interaction. I had a really good time talking to you. I'm glad that we actually got to go through my advice to my former self. That makes me feel really good. I hope it was helpful for you as well. Hopefully you'll come to future Trust Talks. BBB does a great job with that. And if you have questions about the BBB, Trust Talks, being a member, etc., we have staff here in the room that will gladly answer those questions. If you have questions about what we talked about today, business, being an entrepreneur, etc., I'll hang out. Otherwise, feel free to go back to your busy lives, and I wish you all success.